Hey, what's up guys, Karn here. So Last Epoch's 1.2 patch released and we just got done with the Obura Broth race in a hardcore SAF. And I've been getting a lot of questions and requests about the build that I played to progress in this league up to the boss. So I'm gonna share with you guys exactly. I made a planner here that I'll share down below. You can look at and I'll go over it and to explain a little bit what I'm showing you here. So there's two sets. The first set here is just my actual setup, the gear that I had, and my tree and everything. I actually set my actual character from the race. And then we have another set with like something that I would do a bit more in game if I wanted to like gear up a bit more, which I will do. Yeah, that's just so you have an idea exactly what to do. And for the tree, I'm just gonna go over the tree real quick. So in Sentinel here, nothing weird, nothing crazy. We just get the normal stuff to get 20 points, and then we'll go to Paladin. And we'll only spend, we're not gonna spend anything in Forge Guard, we're gonna spend 10 points in Void Knight because we need abyssal echoes, which I'm actually gonna start with that, I guess. So like the skills we use, the way it works is like we're gonna use a smite. Has been reworked this patch by virtue of fissures getting buffed. So like fissures before did not really work. They did scale with physical damage, even though like smite obviously did fire damage, so it didn't really scale with anything. You didn't really do any damage, but that's been fixed. Now they buffed the damage effectiveness by a lot. It went from 36% I think damage effectiveness per second to 200. For reference, smite itself is 150% damage effectiveness, so it is a ton of damage. And they also changed the max fissure thing. These nodes here kind of changed. Either way, the way we'll do it is we'll just play smite to proc fissures, and the fissures will do damage over time. You can stack 3 of them per second. So having higher than 3 casts per second will not really help you that much unless you're scaling both hit and dots. I'm gonna go over it later. This is a different setup. There's a lot of ways to build and scale this build. You can go fire, you can go lightning, you can go dots, you can go pure dots, you can go hybrid hit and dots with scaling crit. There's a lot of things you can do. The way I did it, the reason I played Fire Fisher Smite in my run is because it's very easy to gear. There's very small, very limited gear requirements. The only thing you need is devotion, and eventually you also want Twisted Heart for the insane defense it gives you, and it also gives you like cast speed strength. Like the Twisted Heart for this build is absolutely insane. Yeah, these are the main thing. Like devotion is a ton of damage, and then Twisted Heart is a ton of defense. So you would always want these two, and the rest is pretty much it doesn't really matter that much. Like everything else can be just generic gear. You could have exalted items everywhere, and it would be fine. But either way, that's why I went with Fire Fisher, because it's a lot easier to gear. You could go lightning as well. Lightning is harder to gear because if you go lightning, you wanna first of all, you need more points into smite because you need to go path all the way to Order of Lagan to convert to lightning, and also you need to scale crit via the Judgment of Storms here that allows your crit multi to scale your damage over time. So there's it's more hungry on the points on the tree and on the gear. So I decided to go with fire because fire transitions very smoothly into Judgment as well, since Judgment and Fire Fisher Smite do the exact same type of damage. Anyway, so on the tree, obviously we'll go through Sacrifice and Autonomon. We leave 1 point, we only take 4 points here so that we can actually leech. You always get leech if you have that through the Blessing or through the gloves that I have on this gear set here. It's not necessary, you can also just max it if you want, that's also fine. And then we go into the Fissure, get Fissure, 2 extra Fissures, so we have 3 per second, so that you can spawn. More AoE here and double damage here. So these things here like basically make you, this is triple damage here and this is double damage. So given that the damage effectiveness by itself is already pretty good, it's a lot of damage. We obviously use Healing Hands because I feel like most builds you would want to try to use Healing Hands in some way if possible. We proc it with Smite. And the nice thing about Smite Healing Hands is that Healing Hands also scales the exact same way the Smite does. It's a fire spell. So you can just, that scales with Attunement. Attunement obviously doesn't scale damage for us here, but Hidden Effectiveness does. So indirectly it does. And we just spec all the damage. It also gives us 10% void damage reduction here, and 10% necrotic damage reduction here. It's pretty good. We make it cost 0 mana with these 2 nodes, as well as the 1 mana cost reduction. Raise Shroud here, Sun Shroud allows you to use it as a movement skill that makes you immune to damage while you use it, which is insanely good for getting out of trouble or dodge some boss abilities. It would be very dangerous otherwise. And then we go into Divine Barrier, Homeward, and Synthesis of Light. Now, before, this was bugged previously. Like last patch, it did not work at all. Like you would get maybe like 30 ward per cast on this. Now you get like a solid like 200 ward per cast whenever you use. So you get a really good amount of ward from using Synthesis of Light, even without having a Twisted Heart. So as soon as you get that, you can probably already push you'll be extremely safe and empowered as soon as you have that. And you can probably push even Corruption. I would say you can probably push 300 Corruption because of that node here, giving you an extra. I would say that early during progression, I was probably getting around 1200 to 1500 ward from that node. Like relative, I would say like stable 1k ward, like depending on like uptime, obviously. A lot of the time it's more. And as soon as you get Twisted Heart, this goes up to like 5k ward. So it is defensively, you have a really big pool very early, next to Healing Hands. And it also does a lot of damage early on, especially early on. Like Smite, Healing Hands, as soon as you get them, around level 20, you can have both. And rocking Healing Hands will do a lot of damage, that will do a lot of your clear. Until you get fissures on your smite, at which point you will not need Healing Hands for clear that much anymore. And also, since you will be scaling that, you will not really scale Healing Hands damage that well. And this is when you go homeward. Make sure you always get healed. You always get the heal and the ward from Synthesis of Light. Holy Aura, obviously, is straightforward. Don't need to talk about this. Just take a lot of stuff. Res, Endurance, some Fire Pen, Healing Effectiveness, Damage, Speed, all that stuff. Nothing to see here, just strong. Symbols of Hope will go for the block, obviously, and all the sigils. But the Teragram and Polygram to get 5 sigils with this, which will give you with 15% block chance scaled by the Covenant of Light node here. That gives us Holy Aura and Symbol Effect. So that's gonna give you another 3%. So you get 18% block chance just from the sigils, which is huge. Allows us to cap without having any block chance on the gear. And then for the filler points that you go through here for the +2 for the extra flat damage here. You could also just not take this and take this. I'm not 100% sure, I haven't really checked what's better, but like either way, this is probably similar in terms of damage. And then we have Abyssal Echoes, which is necessary only when you use Devotion. Once you get Devotion, you need a way to dump your mana. Previously, that was done through Sigils of Hope. You could just spam them very easily since we scale cast speed. It was not a problem at all to cast Sigils of Hope to dump mana and then keep it low. Now we cannot do that anymore. You don't ever want to use the Symbols of Hope because otherwise you lose your block chance and all that stuff. So and also it doesn't cost that much mana, and it has a cooldown. So this is not an option anymore. Normally on the 5th slot, last patch you would use Javelin, because it gives you a decent amount of single targets. But instead now we'll use Abyssal Echoes, which is what we need 10 points in Void Knight for. And it will give you, it is still pretty good. It will give you a lot of damage through Nether Coating, which is 20% more damage against blinded enemies. Enemies will always be blinded every time you use Abyssal Echoes on them, and you will have to use Abyssal Echoes to keep your mana low. Alternatively, you can also get blind chance on your one suffix if you want. You can also spec it on the Paladin tree with blinding light here, get a few points just to make sure it's always up. But either way, it's not really needed because Myopia here will make your Abyssal Echoes always blind. On top of it, you will increase the damage over time taken by them, so that's 24% more damage here, 20% more damage here. It also does some shred, which is not really relevant because we don't do that much hit damage in the endgame. Then obviously remove the cooldown and allow to target it, so you can always make sure your Abyssal Echoes are applied to your target. So you get a lot of damage from this and allows you to keep your mana low. So what you will do is you will start an echo, you will just dump all your mana and you're gonna try to keep it as low as possible. Note that Smite Fissure actually makes Smite cost a little bit of mana, So you will not be able to go negative mana. If you go negative mana, then the fishes will not spawn. So you just wanna be previously you could just dump your mana all the way to negative and it would not be a problem because healing hands is free, smite is free, so there's no issues being negative mana. Abyssal echoes, however, fisher however costs mana, so you cannot go negative mana if you do not want to result on the damage. It's not that big of a deal if you go below negative because you will get it back up pretty quickly with well, actually, I just realized I made a mistake here. You would normally want 5 points here. Yeah, so you will, that will not be a problem, you just get 4 points here, which is what I've found to be the right amount of mana gain to generate enough mana but not too much. So yeah, again, you can always tweak this to your character, see if you generate too much mana and you have to spend your use abyssal echoes too often, then remove points, and if you feel like you're not generating enough, just get more points. You can also spec into the mana efficiency here, make it cost less. Basically, you have to tweak a little bit. It's a little bit annoying. You wanna make sure that it's properly minimaxed, but once you have figured that out, like you don't have to worry about it anymore, and you just play normally. But personally, on my character at the very least, like I said, he was 4 points in time and faith, and no points here, and that was just right. Now for the gear, on my character, this is what I had. Nothing crazy here. The main items, like I said, are Devotion, Twisted Heart ASAP, and obviously like Countenance of Majasa, which is an insane shield because it applies your block effectiveness to dots, and as you can see here, for example, we have almost 70% damage mitigation from block. Total that goes to dots, so that's a huge chunk of damage reduction against the most dangerous damage type in the game still. We also get a bunch of those from idols. Our idols on smite can give a lot of damage. We get like 50%, up to 50% damage to smite. You can also get a fire dot on the suffix, but block effectiveness is very strong, so we want to go for that on every single idol we have. The idols here are just examples. You can also have 4 adorned idols if you want. You can have a bunch of some small ones with healing effectiveness and health. It can be done a lot of ways. This is just an example here. You feel free to just mix and match however you want. But for the enchantments, the best one most likely gonna be just less damage over time, and armor mitigation applies to dots. So this is what we go for on our enchantments. And yeah, the block effectiveness, healing effectiveness, damage, fire damage over time, all this stuff. The gear again, the rest, like I said, is not that special. You try to get the exalted health, so to get your life up, pretty important. Here, the exalted mod, I guess on the wand, we could go tier 7 cast speed as well, but I think for this build, because we can only spawn 3 fishers per second, there's not as much incentive as we did previously without fisher. You just go full on cast speed. You just want enough cast speed so that the main thing cast speed will do past 3 casts per second will be to get more damage from the smite hits and give you more ward, because you can cast more, so more healing hands, more ward generation. But it is up to you. Again, there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm not saying this is the way to do it. Like the mods here, you could have cast speed here. You could just go for straight up fire spell damage on your items instead of damage over time, and then go for a more hybrid type of setup where you can go full on scaling cast speed to the maximum, and then instead of having damage over time on your as the mods on your items, you just go for generic spell and fire damage that will apply to both the hits and the dots. You can also go for a crit version, again, like I said earlier, with lightning or things like that. There's a lot of ways to do it. This is just an example. What I did it, how I progressed. It's probably the smoothest and simpler type of setup to do, because you require that it's very, very easy to set up. You don't need much gear, and it works very well very early. A ton of damage and very good defense. And I have again like another setup here with a different gear. For example, here using a 3 LP items, 2 LP items. Grasp of the Grasp of the Blood Mage, which is insanely good defensively. Also gives us a spell crit chance if we want to go for the crit variant. Gives us the Leech 2, which frees up the Blessings, which I haven't gone through, but I'll do it now. Like originally on my run, I think what you always have is mana, because again, skills damage with Devotion. Block chance to cap your block chance, Fire Shred here, because otherwise you don't have any. The res, and which allows you to cap your res without pretty much any res roll on your items. And Spell Leech. You don't have any source, but once you have Rest of the Blood Mage, you can change that blessing here into life. The rest though does not change. Yeah, that's just an example what you can go for. I have for example healing effectiveness. You could go for dot, healing effectiveness, fire pen. All these are valid. Same for the rings here. I have healing effectiveness, attunement, health. This could be dot damage over time instead of healing effectiveness. The reason I have a lot of healing effectiveness, I try to get some, is because on the passive tree here we have we get 100%, we get 5% fire penetration per 100% healing effectiveness. So the way you would probably want to decide what stats you want would be to look at your healing effectiveness, and if it allows you to reach a threshold, then you go for it, and if it doesn't, then you probably just go for more damage instead or another stat. So again, something that needs to be tinkered with a bit when I min-max your character. So yeah. Again, none of this. It also depends like what you want the most. If you want more damage, you can also just drop the healing effectiveness, or more damage. Yeah, it's all very flexible. There's no answer really. It just depends how you want what choices you want to make with your character. The Twisted Heart here, for example, I have cast speed and elemental damage over time. If you were to go for crit, for example, you would you could just go for +4 smite, and then you can spec into crit stuff here, and yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of ways to do it. That is just what I did, and what I can recommend you to do, which is very easy, very not much thoughts you have put into it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you can find me on my stream, obviously at twitch.tv/Khan_. I will be farming for next build. I'll probably try to make an crit smite, crit lightning version with the hybrid dot and hit. I think this is the best version of the build probably. I would say that scaling crit for both dots and the hit in a hybrid version is what would make the most sense. But yeah, that's it for me. I'll see you guys later. If you have any questions again, feel free to come ask, and